Today I wanted to speak with you on and about the subject of what drives us as men to make certain decisions about our lives, what keeps us going, what motivates us, what is the proving ground of our ideas around success, women, relationships, and relationships with one another. Why at this particular point are we having this discussion? Because across the nation and across the world, we have ideas around what successful men are, who they are. We can talk about the Bill Gates of this world, the Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. We can also look at athletes from Michael Jordan. We can look at business people, Warren Buffett, and the list goes on and on. And there's the thread. There is this continuous thread around how do we as men, how do we define ourselves, and how do we relate in the world based upon those definitions. And the traditional definitions, as you see in front of you, is around protection and provision and providing. Those are the things that we as men traditionally have been allowed to participate in. And when those things are taken away from us, the notions of providing, the notions of protecting, the notions of being that protector, then when those things are taken away from us, many times we're not allowed the space to recreate a new definition. And so when there is loss, when there is failure, when there is a taking away of one's own self, if you will, we slip into something called inadequacy. So I thought it would be interesting today for us to look at one particular person who's been in the news of late, and his name is Allen Iverson. Why is he so important to us as a lesson? He's a great teacher at this moment. Here's a guy who was the top of his game. Here's a guy who came out of Harvard's background, who what one would say had raw talent. He didn't fit the standard of an NBA player. He wasn't over 6 feet tall. He didn't have the strength or the build, but he had what they call heart. And he had skills, and he was a great player. But Allen Iverson came into the league at a very interesting time. The league is about 80% African American, and there is this stigma around NBA players that they come from these backgrounds that are driven through hip hop, driven through the way they dress, driven through the way they grew up playing ball in the streets, or even in college if some of them went through that particular league. And so what's happening, there's a change. There's a change in the intake process to be an NBA athlete. Now they want you to be at least 18. They at least want you to have 1 year of college, whereas before they used to just take you right in based upon talent. So Allen Iverson came in when one would say maybe the NBA was trying to clean up its image of professionalism. And if you come from the hip-hop era or the hip-hop scene or the hip-hop world, the way in which you move is through that particular world. It shows up in your dress, number one. And Allen Iverson showed up in the league with a do-rag and with tattoos and what they call swag. He had this coolness, this nonchalant, this ruggedness, this edge about him. That was all things hip-hop, all things urban, all things survival. And he played for years for the Philadelphia 76ers. But quietly, secretly, things were falling apart. Dr. Joseph Stovall out of the Moody Institute in Chicago, Illinois, says there are three things within the heart of man, within the pistons of the heart of a man, that keeps him running on the freeway of life. Pride, passion, and pleasure. He says oftentimes these things are driven by our larger society, and men seek them out by any means necessary to feel adequate, to feel powerful, to be unique, to be number one. And behind the scenes with Allen Iverson, we can see those things played out in such a way. Drugs, alcohol, lack of respect for authority, marriage problems, infidelity. Allen Iverson is the poster child for what people can say is a struggling man. On the court, magnificent. He is poetry in motion. He plays with heart, passion. He galvanizes his team. But underneath his skin, subterraneously, he was feeling, based upon his behavior, a sense of inadequacy. How do we know that? One is, we can see that Allen Iverson really bucked the system. On one level, he publicly said he disagreed with the changing of the guard of how to dress as an NBA player. The league now has put in stiff regulations in terms of how one should arrive to the arena. You must have a blazer. You must be in business attire. You can no longer wear your jeans sagging down and do-rags on your head, and none of that urban look. It was trying to clean up this kind of image of, well, they're all urban thugs, and that's all the NBA is about, and that's a stigma. And Allen Iverson said, look, it doesn't really matter what ones wear. What do you wear? It's how you play and how you support your team members and how you carry yourself on the court as a professional. So he bucked the system, but he was speaking from that urban youth, rebellious position, and it cost him. No one really wanted to hire him after the Philadelphia 76ers. They never got a ring. They were great contenders, and his body gave out on him essentially, from all the bruising, all of the broken bones, all of the pain, all of the suffering, and it takes a toll on you. And he was a guy who took a lot of beatings and who took a lot of bruising, and he would end up every night just battered from just a game, just big guys just hounding him and pounding his body. And so Allen Iverson, the reason I think this is so important for us to look at, one is how we as men move in the world outside of the context of provider, outside the context of a person who creates provisions, outside the context of the person who is the protector. And if we take those three things away and take them off the table, what we have essentially is a watered down version. I'm speaking about society here, a watered down version of manhood. And manhood has been strictly external for us. The way that we have been socialized, the way that we have moved through this world, from our mother's knees to going through school and been socialized in that particular way, and sports and the locker room and girls and just being a boy is all about power, domination, positioning oneself. But what happens when all of those props are taken away from you? So I wanted to look at what we as men hold on to as props. Number one, what has happened to Allen Iverson and what are lessons in that particular story? And lastly, how do we redefine ourselves as men? What are we now calling ourselves as men? What do we respond to? How do we move in this world without the props? So let's make a list of props as men that we oftentimes hold on to. So let's look at how we as men hold up ourselves on any given day. work, money, sex, our cars, our homes, our toys. What I mean by toys, Xbox, our gaming equipment, very important to men. Sports activities, and lastly, perhaps relationships. These are the things that we hold on to because they define us in such a way that we can control these things, we can navigate these things, we can dominate these things, we can make this happen. We can do enough work to pay the mortgage. We can do enough work to take care of the car payments. We can do enough work to keep food on the table. We can do enough work so that we can drive the car to look good so we can get the women. We can do enough work to drive the car, get the women, keep a roof over our head, and also be able to have extra money in our disposable income to play sports. We love the art of competition, whether it's on the basketball court, on the football field, the soccer field, the golf course, or we just playing video games, which is also this idea of competition and winning. We beat the machine, or we play against another opponent. We do enough to keep all of this going because it's very important to us. Any one of these factors can easily go away, and we slip into a place of feeling inadequate because all of these things are sitting on a foundation of external stimuli. What I mean by external stimuli is everything is outside of ourselves. Matter of fact, the ground that we're standing on can easily sink underneath our feet because one false move, there goes the car. One bad report at work, there goes the job. One bad injury, there goes the activities of sporting. A loss of a job, there goes the gaming. There goes the women. So everything is centered around, if I have money in my pocket and I have the ability to make money in my pocket, then in that are certain criteria. In that is a certain expectation. Men have an expectation that they're supposed to be winners, not losers. So those are the props. Those are the things that we hold on to. Those are the things that kind of keeps us going, as Dr. Stowell would say. That those are the pistons within a man: passion, pleasure, pride. All of those things drive us. Now let's look at Allen Iverson. He also was holding on to certain props: his career, his physicality, his money, his women, his family, his image. Being Allen Iverson was very important to him. Keeping it real. You can be Allen Iverson, but I never do not want to forget where I come from. So let me hold on to yesterday's dwellings, friends, the neighborhood, all those activities that I was used to let the fellows know that I'm still a part of them. Even though I'm a multi-millionaire, even though I'm on television 3 nights a week, even though I'm flying private jets, even though I have access to cash and cars and commodities, I'm still real. So Allen Iverson juggled those two worlds, the world of success and the world of the streets. And he oftentimes married them in ways that caused him and the NBA and his family a lot of suffering. Allen Iverson is a great model for us as men to talk about today. And lastly, how do we redefine manhood? Because if we're looking at the props, you take a look at the props, it's all external. Those things are so susceptible to being taken away from us. The cars, the money, the women, all of that. But how do we redefine ourselves as men so that we can be whole, we can be complete, we can be lovable, usable, and effective in this world without all those things. Am I a man if I do not have any money? Am I a man if I do not have a car to drive? Am I a man if I don't have money to buy special things for my special person? Am I a man if I'm not athletic? Am I a man if I cannot afford and am not interested in gaming, Xbox, all those things? What defines us as men is the big question. What drives us? And what do we replace these things with? I would like to submit that the work that we are called to do at this particular point in our lives is internal. It's inward work. It's growing. It's a growing up of sorts. And you have to define that for yourselves. So let's look at how do we as men redefine who we are. We have Allen Iverson, who was at the pinnacle of his life, who is now filing for bankruptcy. Allen Iverson, who had a family, who was now going through a nasty divorce or separation. The Allen Iverson who had all the cars, clothes, creature comforts that one can imagine, but yet he was secretly an alcoholic. Yet he spent all of his money. Yet he made bad financial decisions. He did not have a plan past the NBA. And when you do not plan on success, you plan on failing. It shows up. You showed me a person with a vision, and I show you a person who has a bright future. And that vision could be very simple. Your vision could be, I'm going to continue to work my career this way. I'm going to make sure I make healthy food choices so that I can eat well and live well and stay away from the doctor and the hospital. I'm going to continue to love with an open heart so that I can draw to me loving, wonderful people to support me and I support them. I'm going to be a gatekeeper of our environment. I won't throw trash out of my window while I'm driving a car. I will pick up trash as I see it, as I pass by. That I would not recycle, but recycle, and be a part of just doing my small part of keeping the planet together. And I'll be tender, and I'll be generous, and I'll be kind to those around me and those who I love, and even those who I do not know. That I will speak and smile and be a wonderful citizen on this planet. I mean, that's a different way of moving. That's a different way of being a man in this world. That's a plan. That's what Allen Iverson did not have. He played basketball up until he could not play anymore. And no one wanted to hire him to play on the team. He went away. He went away, and when he went away, he found himself uncapping bottles of liquor, holding on to the nightlife and the image, holding on to what he thought that he could hold on to yesteryear. And so, in redefining ourselves as men, first thing I would say, you must have a vision. You must have a vision for what it looks like to be a person on this planet. You must have a vision and write it down. Why is that important? Because the ownership comes through the experience of putting it on paper. You hold yourself accountable to it. You must see it, think it, believe it, activate it. As Dr. Barber would say, it'll work if you work it. So write the vision down. Number one, redefining manhood. Write the vision down. Two, what you learn at your mother's knees can be unlearned. Relearning manhood, replacing old thoughts, old tapes in your head with something fresh. So we look at manhood through the lenses of internal, what it means to love, be generous, kind, tender, strong, confident and competent, transparency, vulnerability. And third, let's look at the spirit of a man. In redefining manhood, who are we as spiritual beings? How do we tap into that? Is that through prayer? Is that through yoga? Is that through a nature walk? Is that through riding your bike and having positive tapes playing in your ear? Is it through going to the hospital and sitting with sick children, rocking them? How do we find our spiritual center in service with other people? And how do you work in that particular way that helps you redefine not only yourself but the world in which you live? So not only do we need to have a vision, number one. Two, not only do we need to rethink our lives internally, generosity, kindness, meekness, strength, those kinds of things. But lastly, we have to have a spiritual center. And those are the three things I would submit to you today for you to start working with, you to unravel, do the homework, start thinking about things in your life that you know that are no longer working for you. So the homework would be that I would ask you today, before you leave, is write down these three areas. We're going to look at the props, what ways in which we have been socialized in America, in the world as men, work, providing, making money, sex, all those things. Write those things down that are important to you. You know that automatically this is what you know manhood is. Lastly, let's look at Allen Iverson as an example around success and lack of success or failure or losing it all, and how does he regain himself now? And then lastly, how do we redefine ourselves? So those three areas I would love for you today to do the homework around. And when we come back, we're going to revisit these things because I'm sure you probably are going to come up with some great answers, and you're going to come up with some great insight. You're going to look at Allen Iverson through a different lens. Hopefully, we can use him as an example so that we can see ourselves through a different lens and build upon that from this place. As Dr. Joseph Stowell reiterates the idea that from generation to generation, men run their race through pride, passion, pleasure. And oftentimes, the result, Dr. Stowell says, is shame, fear, regret, and loss. So today, your homework will be looking at those three areas. We're going to come back, wrap it up, and then we want to talk about shame, fear, regret, and loss in the lives of men as it pertains to success. Allen Iverson and his great teaching